Again, I'm Lansing Adams, the current acting secretary of the New Mexico Tourism Department.
It's a pleasure to be with you all today. Thank you to Carl, thank you to Joni, thank you just to everyone that makes these events possible. This is a really important group to us. Groups like this are the reason that we exist. We are here to support you. That is our mission, is to support this industry, and we take it very seriously. So I want to just provide kind of some context and some information about the department, what we have going on right now, and talk a little bit about the legislative session, since that's kind of obviously right in front of us at the moment. So I will start to move forward. So to start off, very successful, I think, in terms of our ability to drive the numbers when it comes to visitation and economic impact with New Mexico TRU. So in 2022, we saw 40.8 million trips, which is 4.7% more than 2021, and 9.3% more than 2019, which I think is really important. It shows that we're not only kind of getting back to the swing of things, but we're actually exceeding where we were pre-pandemic. So I know that was there's a lot of hard work that has gone into that, to driving that number. We are a small part of that equation. Much of it lies in this room and all the activities that the leaders in this room are engaged in. The percent of business trips nearly doubled from 2021. This is something that I'm excited to see, especially in Albuquerque. I think that business travel was something that was slower to recover, but we're really seeing that recover, and we want to be a partner with Visit Albuquerque and with all of our local government and DMO partners to make sure that we can bring and make sure that we have a very successful market for conventions and for group meetings. But positive signs there. Average length of stay isn't increasing, which is good. It's increasing, which is good, and that's obviously means more money. And then just a little nuanced bullet point that I think is important. So 49% of overnight visits included a cultural activity. This is important because it's what we lean into with our New Mexico TRU campaign. Much of it features our culture. It's really what resonates with us, and it's what separates us from a lot of our Southwestern competitors in terms of our marketing domestically. So this is something that we have a lot of momentum on. I'm proud to say I was involved with the creation of New Mexico TRU about 12 years ago with, at that time, Secretary Monique Jacobson. So I'm very, very proud to see where we are and very humbled to be in this position to shepherd us forward. You look at just in the past 12 years, so if you were to average it out, 37.7 million annual visits each year. Again, we're higher than that. As our data indicates, 7.1 billion in annual visitor spending. Again, that's an average. And tourism wage growth exceeded all other New Mexico industries. So I think that this is an industry that has recovered and is mightier than ever. So proud of that. This is something that Jen Schreier, my predecessor, had put together that I think is really important to center what we do at the department. So we are thought of often as the marketing engine of the state DMO, and we are. We take that incredibly serious. The New Mexico TRU campaign is where the majority of our resources go towards our national advertising to drive demand. Also within that marketing, that drive demand piece, we have a lot of successful programs like our cooperative marketing program that supports local governments in promoting their regions. But there's another piece to that we're leaning into now, and that's the development. And that's this idea that communities that people want to visit are communities that people want to live. And the idea that we have to build places where people want to be, they want to recreate. We have to build the attractions, the amenities, the access to those attractions. We have to make sure that we have clean streets and we have clean and good-looking facades on our buildings. These are all important things to make sure that as we're driving demand into the state, we're selling the state as this just incredible gem that it is, that when people are here, that we're delivering on the promise that we're making with our advertising, and that when they're here, really enjoying their time. And what that means is very targeted efforts, which I'll speak to, supporting events. Events are huge drivers of tourism in the state. Supporting infrastructure and making sure that we do have the built environment that is going to make us successful. Working when it makes sense on regulatory issues to make sure that our tour operators, our hotels, that we are friendly, business friendly to the tourism industry. It's incredibly important to not only market the state, but to make sure that we are developing our capacity as a destination. So this slide just kind of gets that home in terms of tourism marketing. Again, makes a promise of adventure steeped in culture. That's New Mexico True. That's our brand. Tourism development delivers on that promise through quality amenities, attractions, and access. So to talk first about sustaining that demand and the tourism development side that we're engaged in. This is the second year of our tourism event growth and sustainability program. Very proud of this program. There's 3 tracks to it. We support smaller events that are working on getting their websites up and getting an online ticketing platform, an online store, and getting ready in order to actually be accessed by visitors. And then we have, so that's our accelerator. We have a co-op, which you have all that basic infrastructure, but you can grow. You can grow your event. We have a cooperative program to market events. Specifically in Albuquerque, we've worked with a lot of events, or we're going to be this year, including Gathering of Nations, Balloon Fiesta. There are just numerous events that we're supporting. So if you want a list of that, happy to provide that. We went from 182,000 to 460, almost 463,000 in spending, and we've gone from 17 events supported to 34 statewide. So I'd encourage you to look at this program. If there are events in this community that need some support, or can grow, or really just have something special that we can invest in, we'd love to hear about that. This is just an example I wanted to throw out because I think it highlights how this tourism event program has worked. A couple years ago when we started the program, we supported the Bernalillo Indian Arts Festival. They needed that online store. They needed that online ticketing platform. They needed that website with the proper, curated photos so that it looked the right way. We supported them with that. That is now stood up and accessible to consumers. So this year we're supporting them with a cooperative marketing grant. Now that we have a place to drive that web traffic to, since they have that website, so we're encouraged to see how that's going to boost their visitation, and hopefully they get to a point where their visitation gets maxed out, and we're getting our value based on a sponsorship, which is that third track, which is we get our value just based on the brand impressions. So excited about events. Shifting from events to infrastructure, very important to us to make sure we are properly taking care of all of our tourism assets, whether it's our buildings or our public lands, our outdoor recreation. So when I started a few years ago as the tourism development director, we worked around the state to identify all the tourism-related infrastructure projects. What does that mean? So that can mean anything from renovations of historic theaters, to lighting projects in your town square, to opportunities to increase your passenger service, to purchase some equipment. We worked with, for example, in Clovis, they received money for the Curry County Event Center. We support, we're actually working to support them now through a Destination Forward program I'll speak to in a second, but to actually support the purchase of the equipment of larger EV screen, or those screens that you can actually, it's a very special place now. And it was before, it needed a lot of help. They got a lot of capital outlay money, but now we were there to come in and say, okay, how do we really make this a special place? So when we're talking about infrastructure, think about those investments in your community that are going to make this a place that you're proud to live and that you're proud to welcome tourists to. So to speak about that Destination Forward program, we've had that, this was the first year of that program, about $1.9 million, 10 projects funded statewide. We are trying to bring that up to $3 million in the next fiscal year. I would encourage you all to think about what are some of those amenities, whether it's the rail trail, whether it's beautification in certain areas of the city, whether it's facilities like the convention center, thinking about what are some of these tourism assets that need investment, because this is a program that is pretty innovative in the sense that there aren't too many other states I know about that have dedicated funding for this. So I'm encouraged that both the legislative branch and the executive both recommended funding for Destination Forward in fiscal year 25. We just need to get a little more from the legislature, but very excited about that program. New Mexico Clean and Beautiful. So as far as, when we're talking about tourism, we're talking about our environment, we have to talk about litter. We have to talk about beautification. We have to talk about making sure that we have a community that's clean. And I think that there's been some steps back, unfortunately. And I think that there's a need to sort of reinvigorate the state with respect to making sure we're cleaning up our communities. So just to understand some of the context, the Department of Transportation, through what many know as the Toss No Mas program, have historically done all the litter cleanups on the highways and byways. Whereas the Tourism Department, through our Clean and Beautiful, we support in-community cleanups. Albuquerque's been a partner. Bernalillo County's been a partner. We anticipate that continuing. And you'll see in a future slide, we're actually going to be requesting an additional $2 million this year for our Clean and Beautiful program because it's needed. This is money that's going to go towards cleaning up our communities, towards education. And so just excited that program has grown, but it still has so much room to still grow. When you look at, for example, this slide here, this past year we received about $2.4 million in requests. We were only able to grant out about $907,000 statewide for cleanups. I think we can do better, and so that's going to be something in the legislative session that we're going to be pushing to bolster this program. So switching from development to driving demand, marketing. What are we doing on the marketing side? So our sort of strategic principle here is marketing uses data to target the most valuable and most likely travelers to ensure New Mexico is a primary domestic destination. So that is sort of the mantra behind all of our strategy as it speaks to marketing. These are our current markets that our New Mexico True advertising are centered on at this point. You'll notice San Francisco being highlighted there. San Francisco is a market that was added this year in addition to adding or basically being able to produce a 4-season campaign this year that adds that market. And that was all afforded to us by the executive and the legislature appropriating a $15 million special appropriation of what was at that time federal dollars. And I think that's been huge for us. I mean, that kind of marketing impact has really, it's given us a lot of runway to do some great things. And I'm very encouraged, and we'll get to some of this in later slides, that both the executive and the legislature this year have recommended $15 million for marketing with general fund dollars. I think that's important because that means we're not just taking federal money because it's out there and we're spending it on tourism because we need a place to spend it. We're spending New Mexico money on this because we feel it's important. We're spending general fund dollars on marketing the state. So the legislature's understanding the importance of this industry, of the department, of all we do, and they're investing. And so I'm encouraged by that. Why did we pick San Francisco? Why are we leaning into California? Our research is demonstrating that they're staying longer and they're spending more money. And that's just generally what we're seeing. And so we have, again, increased our presence, whether it's from our digital and TV to the out-of-home placements in the airports. I'm sure a lot of folks, whether they're in California or whether at DFW, have the opportunity to see sort of our immersive marketing campaigns that are existing in those airports. But California is something we have leaned into, and with those dollars from the legislature and with the current recommendations that we have for the 25 budget, we're primed to continue that. Want to make sure to discuss New Mexico Magazine. This is always a great opportunity for businesses to get awareness through editorial or advertorial content. If you have any interest in working with New Mexico Magazine on any stories, please reach out to me. We're always looking for new ideas to pitch, and it's a publication that is everywhere. I had a presentation with the legislature on Friday, and I had mentioned that over Christmas I was in New Hampshire visiting my father, and he was so excited because we were at the Barnes & Noble, and he found the New Mexico Magazine at the Barnes & Noble. And he was so excited about it, and it was cool to see. I mean, it was cool to see that excitement from him, and I'm sure that's shared by so many people that see that publication around the country. So the oldest state publication, something we're very proud of, and I consider it one of our most powerful marketing tools. Cooperative marketing, something that the city of Albuquerque, Bernalillo County, a lot of local governments have really leveraged as an opportunity to increase their marketing dollars. So historically, this had been at a one-to-one match. So community has an idea for how they're going to market their region, their community. It was a one-to-one match, but after COVID, we decided we needed to do more. We opened that up to a 2-to-1. We saw that program explode in terms of the amount of participation from all the counties and cities in the state. So we have kept that at a 2-to-1 match. So the total co-funded media value of that program, so that is in community value, $5.1 million. That is something we're going to be fighting in the legislature this year to just try to sustain from a recurring budget standpoint, that we have the dollars that we need to keep that at a 2-to-1 match, because it's made a huge impact, and I think that we're still in a place where we have so much more to benefit. Earned media, this is something outside of obviously the kind of the paid promotions that we typically do, but a very powerful team. Cody Johnson's here. He's our communications director. So his team's responsible for, talking to the right people about New Mexico so that we can get stories in the New York Times and Outside Magazine, and to get, these editorial stories that are, viewed nationally, internationally. We feel that drives, visibility for the state when they're positive stories. And you look at the ROI on that, and it's pretty impressive. It takes a lot of sweat equity and work. So I think that's probably the devil in the details for the ROI, is just the fact that it's really hard work that his team has to do to make sure that, again, we find the right people, that we bring them to the right places, and that we get those stories that the state deserves. We talked about the visitation numbers, but talk about economic impact. Again, we're record-breaking. We're record-breaking in visitation. We're record-breaking in economic impact. $8.3 billion. $8.3 billion in direct visitor spending for this state. I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible what this industry's done, and how critical it is to the success of the state moving forward. That we are, invested in, because there's, again, so much more room for growth. But very proud of these numbers. These are the result of a lot of hard work with New Mexico True and the strategy about which markets we're going into and how we're going to deploy our dollars, so that as we've seen these budget increases, which have been unprecedented, we've been able to say thank you, and we've been able to deliver that money back to the tax base. The trajectory is still up. So you look at kind of the way things are moving when we're talking about visitor spending. We can look at, there's been some comments about inflation, and I'm not going to say that inflation isn't a part of these numbers, but I think it's a lot more complicated than that, and I think there's a more complete picture, and that more complete picture needs to be painted with our visitation growth. We are seeing, increases obviously in room rates and just the costs of activities, but we're seeing strong increases in visitation as well. So I think that there is a lot to be said about the work that the department's doing and all the hard work that the industry has done to get us to this place, and I'm excited for the future. Wanted to provide one update about a new initiative that we're looking at for fiscal year 25 and then into half of 26. So in 2026, calendar year 2026, it's the Route 66 centennial. So it's a big deal. There's going to be, so there was a national commission that was formed with the 8 states, the 8 designate states. They are going to be working with Brand USA on international marketing for all of Route 66. So kind of marketing the country, but marketing those 8 states internationally. And as part of what they're doing, they had asked all those 8 states to create coordination groups to identify projects for Route 66 that can be part of that advertising. Events, places to go, commemorative items. And so they're building sort of this repository so that they can sell that product domestically, but internationally. And New Mexico can have an opportunity to be a part of those trips. And we're talking about international travelers spending a lot of money. We want to make sure they're spending it here in New Mexico. So as part of that process, we set up a coordination group. They had their first meeting last month. We will have our next meeting in Tucumcari. But essentially, a coordination group is charged with identifying what those projects are and basically promoting those to the national. But in order for us to control our own destiny in the state and to not have to just wait on, is the federal government going to have a pot of money somewhere, a pot of gold anywhere for this? We've decided that we need to kind of figure this out ourselves in a way. So we have requested $2.5 million dedicated for Route 66 themed projects, whether they have to do with infrastructure, whether they have to do with production, whether they have to do with marketing. We are going to be building out a program to support these projects. We're still working on the details as to how the work of the coordination group and the projects that they identify will be vetted through that. But our hope is that we can get that money so that we'll have a dedicated funding source. It's my understanding Arizona is still looking at maybe $1 million. So we're ahead of this in terms of our investment. And I think that if we can do this the right way and we can have this money available, whether it's really cool signage, whether it's really cool promotional advertising opportunities that we can do either as individual cities or just larger, it's a huge opportunity for us, and we're committed to trying to see it through the finish line to get those dollars. So to finish up here, I wanted to just talk about the budget. I think what's important about where we're at right now, there's 2 pieces to our budget. There's our base and our recurring. So I'll talk about our base first. We presented to the House Appropriation Committee on Friday. They adopted the legislative recommendation for the budget, which was about a 4.5% increase to our recurring. We were seeking a 7.6%. So we're still seeking some additional funding, and again, that gap is there to support our co-op at a 2-to-1 match. So we're still going to fight for that because we need to get that on a recurring basis. So we're going to be fighting. We're also looking at standing up a travel trade program so that we are well represented at trade shows, and this is something that, again, without some of these additional dollars in our base, we will not be able to move forward on. On our special appropriations, just a couple pieces on that are important. They took the legislative recommendation, which had $15 million for national advertising, but it also included Route 66 and Zozobra. We kindly, respectfully requested that they work on separating that out so that we have our $15 million for national marketing so that we can stay in San Francisco and have our 4-season campaign and not have to take any of those resources from there for any other projects, and that we can have that $2.5 million as its own appropriation. So we're going to be working on getting that 2.5 separated from that 15. Destination Forward, that was the infrastructure program. About $1.5 million is currently in the recommendation for the budget. So we're going to try to get another $1.5 million to get us up to $3 million. So I think that'll be a fight that we're going to. Yeah, I think we'll be successful. I think there's a lot of support, but still plenty of more work to do. And then we talked Route 66 as it related to the national advertising. We also have 2. So we have the Clean and Beautiful appropriation, which is that $2 million I discussed before. And then just for this group's awareness, we have a request for, there was a bill that was passed that basically, this is what happens when you're good, I guess what you do, you get more work. So they said, you guys are great at marketing. We need assistance for all other state agencies to do what you're doing. So that's great. We appreciate the compliment. But we're trying to make sure that if we have this program to support state agencies called the Marketing Center of Excellence, that we have a pot of money to do it. Because similar to Route 66 and how I mentioned that, it's got to come from somewhere. We need to keep our programs where they're at and growing and not sort of extracting from them. So those are some kind of nuances in terms of where we're at with the session now. But I'm optimistic. We do have our, as was mentioned, our Tourism Day at the Capitol on Monday. I think it'll be a great event. It's all the booth space has been taken up by folks statewide. I know Visit Albuquerque is going to have a presence there. So if you can make it, if you want to see the circus that is the legislative session, come on down, come on up. But we'd love to see you. So we wanted to make sure to mark your calendars. And then just lastly, if here's a QR code. It might be too small to do it here. You can talk to me after. We have a really robust data dashboard now for cities and for counties about all the economic impact for tourism, and that is accessible, consumer-facing. So if you're ever looking at information, in terms of where you're at now, where the trends are going, please access that. And if you have questions about our research, we have a great team. Be happy to work with you. So it's been a pleasure. I know this is a lot of government speak, but we're in the session, and it's kind of the language I'm speaking right now. So great to be here. Beautiful property. So thank you.
Thank you.